Hey guys, Standalone Fighter here and welcome to my Ultimate Gaming PC Guide for 2015. So let's start off with component selection and why I've chosen what I've chosen to put in the build. So first of all, we're going to use a 970 Asus Strix Edition. The reason why I chose this one is because it is a high-end graphics card and it can handle most games out there, but you're not also spending a stupid amount of money for it. Next up, we're using an i7 CPU. That way we're going to make sure we're not bottlenecking our graphics card with a slow performing CPU. We're going to be using 8 gigs of Corsair Vengeance memory. We're going to be using a 256GB SSD just for the operating system. This should be more than adequate enough. For our mass storage, we're using a 3TB Western Digital Blue drive. And for our operating system, we're using Windows 8.1 64-bit. As for the motherboard, we're using the Asus Z87M Plus. This is an SLI capable motherboard, so if he does want to add a second graphics card later, he can always do that, as I am building this for a customer. We're going to be using the Corsair CX600M to be powering everything in the whole PC, and we're going to be housing it all in the Corsair Carbide 330R. The reason why I chose this case is because it's silent and fully dustproof, which is the most important thing that you can have for a PC. Next up, we're going to move on to the accessories. So we're using the Razer Black Widow Tournament Edition keyboard. We'll be using the Razer Naga because the customer does like playing his MMOs and a bit of World of Warcraft at times. And we'll be using the Razer Kraken 7.1 surround sound headset. As for the monitor, we're using the Asus VX239. It is an IPS panel and has really good picture quality in my opinion. So let's start preparing the case. First thing we want to do is take off both the side panels, and those are just simply held on by 4 thumb screws. One thing I would always recommend if you're removing screws is to have a magnetic tray handy just in case. It helps keep your screws safe and prevents you from losing them. Now that the screws are removed, the side panels just simply slide off like so. Next we're going to insert the I/O shield that comes from our motherboard box, and make sure to orient this correctly. Easy way to tell is mouse and keyboard are typically at the top, so we're just going to insert that now. One of the key features about this case is that the motherboard standoffs are already pre-installed, so that's going to save us a little bit of installation time. Now that we have finished preparing the case, now we're going to prepare the motherboard, and we're going to do that by pre-installing the CPU and the Corsair Vengeance RAM. To install the CPU, all you have to simply do is lift up the lever, pull it up, insert the CPU, pull it back down, and when you press back down on the lever it should pop off the dust cap for the CPU socket. Next we're going to be installing the CPU cooler, and with Intel CPU coolers you already have the thermal compound pre-applied, so we're just going to use the stock compound for now. An easy way for me to recommend to do this is to tilt the motherboard sideways, insert the pegs through the 4 holes, like so. Once you've gotten that into there, you want to press down on the tabs on either side for even pressure, and you want to do that for all 4 corners. And when you're finished, at the back it should look just like this, where it's poking through the back. If it's not poking through the back, take it off. You'll need to clean the compound back off and then try again. Finally, what you need to do is to connect the CPU fan into the CPU fan header labelled on your motherboard. Now that the CPU installation has finished, we are now going to install the RAM. Please note to always refer to the motherboard manual to find out which banks you should populate first. So in this case, our motherboard manual told us to fill up the yellow banks first and then the black banks. To install RAM, it's quite simple. Just open up the tabs either side, like so. In this case, on this motherboard, it doesn't have a tab on this side, it's just an insert. So you just have to open up the tab from the right side. So we're just simply going to insert it from one end, like so. And you want to press down until you hear a click. Just like that. And again, with these ones, you can't put them in the wrong way because of the notch inside here. So once again, we're going to pull down the tab, insert the RAM, like so, firm press down, wait for the click, installed. Now that we've installed the CPU and the RAM into the motherboard, it's now time to insert it into the case. So the way I usually do it is I put it in at an angle and then just slide it in, push down to a line and press down. And as you can see, there is a notch down there which helps to align the motherboard. Now that the motherboard has been put in place, we're just going to secure it down with 4 screws. Now we're going to prepare to install the graphics card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to free up the top 2 expansion bay covers by removing the thumb screws for them, and that will allow me to insert the graphics card into the slot. Now all you have to do is take your graphics card, line it up, and then just simply press down and wait for the click. So it's more of a thud as opposed to a click, but it still went in. Then all you have to do is just reinsert those thumb screws that we removed earlier, and that will re-secure the card. Now that we have the graphics card installed, next up we're going to install the hard drive. So all I'm going to simply do is push in, slide out, take my hard drive, align it up with the holes, like so, bend back to put those in, and just slide it back in. And that's our main hard drive installed. Installing the SSD will be slightly different, but as before, we just slide it out, except only this time we're just going to align it to the 4 holes with the bottom 4 holes of the SSD, turn it upside down, and we're just simply going to place the screws into all 4 of the holes. Also, these anti-vibration grommets do need to be removed, otherwise they will get in the way of the SSD. The last component to be installed inside the PC will be the power supply. We are going to mount this one fan side down, as there is air holes at the bottom and it's also dust filtered there as well. To secure the power supply in place, we just need to insert the 4 screws, and that will hold it nice and snugly. Next we're going to install all the headers needed for the case. So we're going to install the USB 3 header, the audio header, and the power switch, reset switch, power LED and hard drive activity LED. Please always refer to your motherboard manual when installing the power, reset switch and the LEDs, as it will always be different for different motherboards. For the case fans, we're just simply going to insert them into the motherboard headers that are designated as the case fans. The type of power supply we're using for this build is what's known as a semi-modular power supply. So your main cables, which every PC will need, come pre-wired into the actual power supply itself, so that these 2 are for the motherboard. And we're going to need some additional cables, so we're going to need SATA power for our 2 hard drives, and we're going to need to install the PCI Express power for the graphics card. To keep cable management clean in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to route all the cables through the back of the case through the cable management holes that are provided. So now that we got all the power cables going through the correct cable management holes, I'm just going to install the power cables for the hard drives first, like so. And these only just go in one way, so it's not too much of a hassle. Next we're going to install the motherboard power connectors. So I'm just going to take my 24-pin connector, insert it until it clips in, like so. I'm going to take my 8-pin CPU connector and then just plug that in over at the top. And again, these only go in one way, like so. The final power connector that we're going to hook up is going to be for the GPU, and in this case it just requires one 8-pin PCI Express connector. We're just going to plug that into there, like so. The final part left to do is to connect the motherboard and the hard drives together. So we're going to do that with a couple of SATA cables, and that's just going to connect into there, just like that, and then we're going to connect them into the hard drive. Okay, we're about to turn on the PC for the first time. Hopefully it should have all worked well. Right, the PC has come into the BIOS, so we know everything is working now. So I'm going to insert the Windows 8.1 disk into the machine. For those of you who would have noticed, I didn't actually install a DVD drive into this computer, so I'm just using an external DVD drive for the moment. So I'm just going to insert that, and I'm just going to tell it to boot from the CD. Once you've gotten past the initial loading stage for the disk, it's going to ask you for the install language. So since we're in the United Kingdom, we're going to do English UK, and then we're going to go to install now. Now it's going to ask you for your product code, but I'll be skipping past this bit because if you guys see the product code, then you'll get a free copy of Windows. Once the product key has been entered, you'll have to accept the terms and conditions to continue. And then we are going to do a custom install. So for this install, we're going to select the SSD. We can tell it's the SSD because it's only 238 gigabytes in size, and the other hard drive is nearly 3 terabytes in size. So I'm just going to select that hard drive and click on next. So now Windows will be installing. I'm just going to fast forward all of this bit. Once Windows has finished installing, the PC will restart by itself and then ask you for some basic settings. So for example, this is asking me for the PC name, so I'm just going to call it the customer's name, who is Connor. And I'm just going to leave the color theme as default and press next. I'm going to use the Express settings. I'm going to give this PC a username, and I'm going to call this Connor's PC. And then we're just going to finish. Now Windows will go through its first time setup, and then we'll need to move on to installing the drivers. The drivers that we're going to install are for the motherboard and the graphics card. So you'll notice when you get your motherboard and your graphics card, they'll come with a CD. And with that CD will come all the drivers. So all you have to do is load it up and then just install all the drivers. Now that the drivers have been installed, one thing I like to do is pre-install programs that might be useful. So an easy way to do this is I go to Nanite, and on this website it makes it really easy to install useful applications. I'm going to select Google Chrome, Skype, Java is quite often used, so is Air, Shockwave, Silverlight, .NET as well, and also for security I'm going to put Security Essentials on there, which should be more than adequate enough, and also a compression installation such as WinRAR or 7-zip. And I'm just going to click get the installer. It's going to download it. I'm just simply going to click on run, and it's going to install all those programs for me. There we go. Everything has now been fully installed, everything works, and now this PC is ready for gaming. Thanks for watching my tutorial on building the Ultimate Gaming PC for 2015. Sorry it has been such a long time since I've uploaded a video, but I don't get to do it often these days. And just in conclusion really, this wasn't meant to be a system where you spend so much money it just doesn't make sense to do it, but it was meant to be a system where it's very high end but you're not spending crazy amounts of money. So if you are looking for a good PC that can play any game out there on the market at the moment, then I'll definitely recommend something similar to this. I'll see you guys next time.